This is the only picture we could track down of Brandon Price, a 10-year-old Albany boy who died mysteriously. A year after his death, the case is not close to being resolved. We uncovered troubling issues with the investigation during our months-long investigation to find out what happened to Brandon. Drivers speed by this old family cemetery in Webster County, oblivious to the heartbreaking story told by this unmarked grave. It's the final resting place of Brandon Price, whose short and troubled life ended tragically on May 3rd, 2014.
My job is to find the truth.
District Attorney Greg Edwards is leading the ongoing investigation.
We don't want to rush to judgment against any individual.
Brandon lived in this East Albany home with his paternal grandparents, but other adults were often there.
Right now, there are multiple persons of interest.
On May 3rd, the grandparents, John and Samantha Price, made the 15-minute drive from their home to Phoebe Putney Hospital's emergency room with Brandon. When they arrived, he was dead. They told police Brandon was alive when they left home, and they believed he may have been bitten by a snake while playing in a hole in the floor of a bathroom closet. We obtained police and Division of Family and Children's Services records that tell a different story. An officer who responded to the hospital wrote Brandon had bruises all over his body and several open wounds to his hands and feet with marks all over his back. The coroner stated he thought Brandon had been dead for at least the past 6 or 7 hours. The GBI and prosecutors denied our request to see the autopsy report, but in this DFACS report, a case manager wrote preliminary autopsy results showed non-accidental injuries to the brain. Brandon was underweight, just 55 pounds, and there was no food observed in his stomach. The DFACS report referenced his emaciated condition and apparent neglect and suggested Brandon was forced to sleep on the floor and sometimes locked in a closet as punishment.
There's probable cause to believe a crime has been committed, but we still need to identify who did it.
Multiple times last year when we asked D.A. Edwards for updates on the case, he told us his office was waiting for additional forensics tests from the GBI crime lab. But we uncovered those tests were not requested until February, and only after we questioned the GBI director.
I don't know who did not ask.
2 weeks ago, Edwards told us he was still waiting for trace evidence testing, but our investigation found those results came back from the crime lab in July and no further trace evidence testing was requested. Edwards sticks by the way his office and police have handled the case.
I haven't seen anything that has been done that is a measurable mistake.
Greg Edwards insists this case always has been and remains a priority for his office.
Every homicide or death of a child is of utmost importance.
He says the case is difficult because 3 factors led to Brandon's death. Investigators have to determine whether those factors involved criminal activity and who is responsible.
I wish this was a, as they say, open and shut case, but it's not. So we got to work.
He says he is committed to working for justice, no matter how long it takes.
Getting it right is more important than getting it quickly.
And finding out what happened to Brandon. Brandon's mother lived in Florida at the time of his death and did not have legal custody. Read the statement she gave us about the investigation at WAOB.com, where we also posted more documents and facts about the case. Tonight at 11, I'll look at an obscure state law that may have helped keep Brandon hidden. Sunday marks the first anniversary of the mysterious death of this Albany boy, 10-year-old Brandon Price. During our months-long investigation into why there's been no resolution to the case, we also found out about an obscure law that may have helped keep Brandon hidden. Brandon Price was buried in this unmarked grave nearly a year ago. Our investigation uncovered a Division of Family and Children's Services report that raised questions about possible abuse.
We are re-evaluating our forensic approach to the case.
As that investigation continues,
we have our handful of challenges.
The Dougherty County School Superintendent believes state lawmakers need to reconsider a mistake he believes may have contributed to Brandon's death.
I think it was a terrible call.
Brandon used to walk the halls of the now shuttered Sylvester Road Elementary School, but 2 years before his death, his grandparents pulled him out and registered him with the state as a homeschool student. Local school systems used to get monthly progress reports on homeschool students. But in 2012 and 13, lawmakers changed the law so local school systems now can't even keep a list of homeschoolers. Parents must register them with the State Department of Education. After that, there's no oversight.
This was a child that was lost. It didn't have to be lost.
Dr. Mosley believes if Brandon had been in school every day, teachers would have noticed problems.
They would have picked up on it. Our social workers would have gotten involved.
We learned DFACS did investigate allegations of maltreatment of Brandon 4.5 years earlier. The report ruled those allegations unsubstantiated. The current criminal investigation continues.
There's no set standard of time for finding the truth,
with no end in sight. If you missed our 6 o'clock story that focused on the investigation into Brandon's death, check it out at WALB.com or our mobile app and get a behind-the-scenes look at how we put the story together. This woman spent her career working with children.
It's just like he's been abandoned.
Like many of you, she was heartbroken to learn about Brandon Price's tragic and unsolved death and his burial in this grave that remains unmarked a year later.
I don't care about anything else except God knowing that he has not been forgotten and that there are people here that do care.
So she found his final resting place.
A lot of mud.
And while she can't sweep away any pain Brandon may have felt in life, she can wash away the leaves and the dirt from the place he was buried.
It's sad that it comes to this, that we can't do more while they're still here.
She's already gotten permission from Brandon's mother to put up a headstone and is working with a funeral home to make that happen.
It won't be the last time I'm here.
The shirt this Good Samaritan randomly pulled out of a drawer today says it all, listing reasons we should all stand up for children.
And I pray that folks will listen to their children and that agencies will listen to the children and then do something.
Something to prevent another Brandon in an unmarked grave.
Charges are finally filed a year and a half after the death of a 10-year-old Albany boy. Brandon Price's grandmother and aunt are in the Dougherty County Jail tonight.
They were arrested today 6 months after a WALB News 10 investigation into this case, a case which is still far from over. Brandon Price died on May 3, 2014, just days before his 11th birthday. He was already dead when his grandparents showed up with him at Phoebe Putney Hospital, claiming he suddenly got ill. Tonight, his grandmother, Samantha Price, is charged with first-degree cruelty to a child, essentially accused of starving him.
She did not provide Brandon Price with necessary sustenance, causing him to be underweight, weighing only 48 pounds at the time of his death.
A second-degree child cruelty warrant accuses Samantha Price of failing to get proper medical care for Brandon,
causing cruel and unusual pain and suffering to the child as he was suffering from apparently pneumonia.
Victoria Price is charged with obstruction, accused of hindering the investigation by telling her daughter what to say in a forensic interview. No one is actually charged with Brandon's death, but District Attorney Greg Edwards says that could change.
But our investigation is ongoing, and if more information develops, charges might be increased as based on whatever we find.
Edwards plans to present the case to a grand jury in December or January. That jury could upgrade charges against the women in jail now or indict other suspects.
If there's a way to bring further charges that would be based on evidence, we will bring those charges.
Edwards says this has been such a difficult case because 3 separate factors may have contributed to Brandon's death. It's difficult to prove what actually killed him and who is responsible. More details now on this troubling case. As we said, Brandon died on May 3rd, 2014. A week later, he was buried in an unmarked grave in Webster County. We spent months poring over police and Division of Family and Children's Services records and aired an investigation into the case in May of this year. Viewers then raised money and placed a headstone on Brandon's grave and made a donation in his honor to the Lily Pad Center. The DA assured us a few months ago charges would be filed by the end of this year. Those warrants were signed yesterday and the arrest came today. Read this story at WALB.com for links to our previous investigation.